Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Chorus Cornix, and welcome to Yacc, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game I played for a week and then I talk about it. This week's game is Monsters in My Pocket for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was released in 1992 and it's a single-player co-op, side-scrolling platformer. Developed by Konami and published by Palcom. And also there'll be spoilers up ahead just so you know, but first a little backstory. So this week I found a new retro podcast on Spotify called Nerd Cave Retro, and the second episode I got as far as that. They talked about Delusions of Gaia and Monsters in My Pocket, and that's why I picked it this week, because the game sounded interesting. So as you start up the game, you monsters literally jump out of the pocket, and then there's a title screen where you can select one or two players. So you can either play as a vampire, think Nosferatu, or like a Frankenstein's monster. So the two main pocket monsters are watching TV, and the broadcast gets interrupted by the main bad guy Warlock telling them that he has released his henchmen and it's up to these two monsters to deal with that. So the first stage is called Monsters in My House, and you beat up zombies, witches, skeletons, and hunchbacks. So you can pick up a key and it can be used as a weapon. And the cool thing about this game, since you are a little toy, everything is big, everything from like the plants to the windows, everything. And the main two characters are very much alike. They're just like sprite swaps, and they only use close quarters combat, so you can basically hit. That's what you can do. But every like enemy that you beat, every other toy, I just say they go down with one hit. So you start with 3 lives and you can take up to 5 hits. And there's also a score, so if you get a high enough score, you get an extra life and so on. And as the stage progresses, you go down a flight of stairs and you fight a boss, a blue jumping guy that throws knives. So the second stage is called Trouble in the Kitchen, and the enemies here are trolls, I believe, ghosts, and green dinos. I didn't write it in my notes, but I believe they were flying because I wrote that they drop eggs, so probably they were flying. And there are also some axe-throwing enemies. So you fight a boss in this level in a stage similar to a freezer, so avoid getting frozen and jump over him while he does his thing. The third stage is called Crisis from the Underground, and the enemies here are 2-headed purple birds, light blue rocks that fall down a slope, so you have to jump, and this is a little bit tricky. You have to jump a little bit ahead of time. You can do like a double jump, but if you do it too early, you will get damaged by the boulder. So eventually you go down or end up in a sewer, where you avoid goblins dropping down from water pipes and fishes while riding on a red can. So the boss of this stage is a mutated face with tentacles, and I died to this boss, obviously. I didn't find any good strategy. I just button mashed until he went down, brute forcing it. So then I figured out I gotta continue because I failed so many times. So you have 3 continues, I guess, and you start at the beginning of stage 3 if you die at the boss. It's not that huge of a penalty. And then it's time for stage 4, the Towering Catastrophe. So climbing a fence, avoiding green bugs and red devils that run at you, jump on a crane and go over like these areas with spikes. And it was kind of annoying because there were these flying enemies that, attacks you, and you have to like hit them in the air before they hit you while you're on this crane. So it felt kind of like a stress situation, I guess. So a lot of frustration later, climbing like a scaffolding while avoiding sliding goblins and green chimeras that charges. And later in the stage you ride an elevator while killing waves of enemies, and the boss on this stage is a green annoying goblin, and of course I got a game over at that boss and I died, and I went back to the main menu and tried the monster instead of the vampire. So they basically control the same, they're just sprite swap, and that's how much I played this game this week. So gameplay: go through the levels, beat the enemies and the bosses, and stop Warlock in the end. Control: the A button jumps, the B button is attack, the D-pad is movement, and the start button pauses. Graphics. So this game has a lot of sprite flicker when there are a lot of enemies on the screen. That's common for these kind of games. But one thing I liked about the graphics and the details are that you are these tiny, basically pocket monsters, and everything is big, from cups, apples to chairs and everything. And it's a cool concept. It's like being a kid all over again playing with like plastic toys. Sound and music. Hiroshi Takehasu and Kusu Nakamura made a soundtrack for this game, and I actually like the soundtrack a lot. The first stage, the Monsters in My House, sets the tone perfectly, and the stage 4 is just the Towering Catastrophe, I should say. It has a weird opening. I might put it in the intro of this podcast. It's actually kind of funny. Easter egg seekers and glitches. So this game is based on a toy line that also have a trading cards game, a comic book, an animated special series, a CGI series, and according to the wiki, if I can read my handwriting, that is, there are 229 different types of monsters. So they're about 1 or 2 inches like tall, and they come in different colors. So in conclusion, I wrote, yes, try it. This game is actually kind of fun, and it has this progression where you get a little bit farther each time you play. Some areas are like the crane section, you can't avoid taking damage, and that's kind of unfortunate. It's actually kind of stressful. Another thing that I don't do much research when I do my podcast, but apparently one of my favorite podcasts out there actually did an episode on this. Not on the regular like Spotify feed, but on their YouTube channel. So I was like, when you look for reviews and other kind of referential material, this pops up when you do research. And I was like, maybe I should do more research before I get into games. But then again, I'm lazy. So yeah. So try this game if you like a simple beat 'em up platformer, single co-op side scroller thingy. If you like that, play this game. So anyway, thanks for listening and for watching, and take care.